Hello everybody, this is Starman, and welcome back to Let's Play Betrayal at Krondor. Well, last time you remember, we finished doing a few quests, and as a result of everything we've walked around doing, we've now got some fairly decent armor. Owen has improved his spellcasting ability a bit. And perhaps most impressively, we currently have 206 extra gold after having gotten some rather nice gear, including an actual blessed sword, and a book that leveled up our stats rather efficiently. Go and switch that to Owen. Yeah, Owen took quite a beating last time, it looks like. But we are back about where we're supposed to start the game, just outside the town of LaMut. Or actually just outside the village of Yabin, which actually it's supposed to be a city in the original books, but it's more of a village here. But anyway, as long as we're here, we'll go ahead and sell the More to Hell lampreys, because this is the only shop around here that will take these. And sell the armor, and sell that armor. And we're up to 263 gold. And doing pretty well. So, having totally walked around the expanse of the map, this whole area right here, having gone around through Tyresog, L'Oreal, Hawks Hollow, and Zun, but not yet going to LaMut, which is one of the bigger cities and the first major city we're supposed to get to. And a fun little note on this, the large cities have a little grayish mark. The small towns you walk through on the main map have brown marks. And there's not that many bigger cities around here, and actually even the ones that are known as bigger cities aren't too big. We just have LaMut, Sarf, Krondor, Malek's Cross, Sephanon, Silden, Romney, Caval Keep, which is actually a smaller town, Northwestern, High Castle, and there we go. So we are going to go and explore LaMut this time around, which is supposed to be the first city you go to, but we've been having a bit of fun with this. But we're going to run into somebody on the road first. At least we're supposed to run into somebody on the road first. I think we may have just skipped past them. But got another word lock here. Prince Arufa from his lofty perch will find our troops without a search. His men will fall, his castle too. And then what will Prince Arufa do? Well, 3 letters, pretty simple. King without a castle, die. And hey, another set of armor, another sword. Here we go. Someone was calling. Recognizing the lilt of the young voice, Owen turned and looked around down the road. The young squire that he had met at a party in Yabin was trudging behind them, a pack full of scrolls slung over his shoulder. Huh, that seems suspicious. The squire waved congenially, and Owen echoed the motion. What do you think you're doing? We're trying to remain unnoticed. Damn, Locklear muttered under his breath. Try to behave as normally as possible. Since you know him, you handle him, Owen. And remember, Goroth's name is Forgath, Owen finished, irritated. I'm not a child, you know. Locklear whispered. That remains to be seen. I didn't expect to see you quite so soon. I would have thought you all the way to LaMut by now. It would have been if the Duchess hadn't insisted on introducing me to all of her daughters. Amelia was the prettiest, though I think Catherine took a liking to you. Catherine took a liking to everybody at the party. She's as fickle as her mother. She'll likely marry a Condoin if she can find one not tied in the marital knot. Condoin being the royal family that the king, the prince, and the Duke of Krydee are a part of. True enough. Say, I thought you said you were from Tyburn. Why are you taking this route home? Kind of a long way around, isn't it? Well, yes, but I had to meet up with my uncle Locklear here, and my other friend is an elf, Forgath. They decided it'd be nice if you take a tour of them down to Hawks Hollow. Down to Hawks Hollow. I hear it's lovely this time of year. What are you up to? I'm looking to cash in a reward, actually. When I was on my way to Yabin last month, I found a chest in the area, but I couldn't pick the lock on the thing. I figured it wasn't meant to be, and I left off. Thing is, all through the Duchess's party, I couldn't help but think about it. I have that chest on the brain. I don't really care what's in it, but I have to pick that lock. Well, go ahead and ask him nearest town. I'm afraid my senses of direction and distance are a bit off right now. We all had a bit to drink last night, and we're still trying to shake off the effects. Which way is the nearest place we can get cleaned up? Yeah, it must have been quite a bit if you're that confused. Head straight south along the main road, and that will take you into LaMut. You're looking for good food, the Blue Wheel Inn is a solid wager, though I warn you their Surani food can be a bit spicy. Inns. I, for one, could do with a little less sleeping on the ground. Any good inns you could recommend? He just recommended one. Well, there's the Blue Wheel Inn in LaMut, or you might try the Dusty Dwarf in Hawks Hollow. I suppose if you got really desperate, you could try breaking into one of the abandoned houses out in that part of the country, but I can't sleep on a house that might fall on top of me. Of course, maybe the people have moved out for good reasons. I've heard that several people south of L'Oreal moved out after a contagion began spreading there. Yeah, we know about that. Empty houses. Was there anything left behind in any of the abandoned houses you saw? Nothing of real value, bits of food in a few cupboards, an occasional gold piece kicked beneath the foundation of the house. Lost items, mainly. The majority of the places I visited had those unpickable locks. What are they called? Weber locks. Yes, those. They had Weber locks installed, and I wasn't able to get inside. And hands. This is going to sound lunatic, but would you mind letting me see your hands? My hands? Okay, why? Just humor me. A man we spoke to in Hawks Hollow said that we should look for a man who had a sign on his hands. He said the man had very important scrolls in his pack, and we should listen to him. Your hands look fine to me. Scrolls. Sounds like the man you spoke to might have gone around the bend. And lost items. I'm not certain, but I think he may have mislaid a very valuable belonging of mine. I shouldn't worry too much. Depending on where you lost it, the good chances are good it will still be there. So, yeah. Random conversation, that. And, pile of dirt on the road here, which just contains some more adventurine. And one thing of rations. And over here on the right is LaMut, but immediately to the left of it. Remember how somebody said there was a mysterious grave here? Let's see. Goldie Crow. In death, her face was that of a sovereign. 13 gold. And just a body in that one. To the drawer of nets, she took her key. And not a key in there, oddly enough. He told the lion paid the price. Nothing in there. A cat, a cur, we loved him still. No body. He engaged in his last undertaking. Aha. Spy note. Please with our thanks to the Six for the shipment of magic traps, the which we've employed has been informed not to step between them. She has promised to test them at her leisure. Well, I think we've diffused all the magic traps already. Her face so sweet and her hands could heal. Hey, restoratives. His fish didn't get away. Touched by flames for honor's sake. Fire arrows. His chest was opened by a mortal, and nothing there. Well, let's go ahead and get into LaMut. And I regret that I can't have the music turned on here because the theme for LaMut is a very nice one. But in many ways, the town looked like something created on alcoholic binge. Rude dwarven shacks smashed up against delicate elven shops, while weird serene taverns grew from oppressive kingdom-style dwellings. A sign outside the city gate had summed it up well. All who visit LaMut are equal, for all in LaMut is equally queer. Hello, Thaler! No, but in the original Raymond Feist books, LaMut did become the second home to most of the Surani who were stranded on Midkemia after the Rift War ended and the rift between worlds was closed. And a quick little summation of the Rift War, which I think we do get eventually in the game, but I'll go ahead and explain it now. The whole gist of the first 3 books of the Rift War, specifically Magician, which was Raymond Feist's first novel, was that we had a war break out between 2 worlds. The world of the Kelowon, where the Surani lived and had a empire very much like feudal Japan, and Midkemia, the world of the Kingdom of the Isles, which is very much like, at least in the kingdom, medieval Europe. Well, the war raged for 10 years between the western half of the kingdom, which the western and eastern halves of the kingdoms are basically independent nations unto their own, that are just nominally linked by some policy just because of the distance covered. But the war raged on for 10 years until Macross the Black, the Merlin of this world, wound up arranging to have the rift, the magical gateway between the two worlds, destroyed, saying only that a vast creature called the Enemy was going to be attracted to the rift and would wind up destroying both worlds. So that ended with all of these soldiers from Surani stranded on this world, and they were taken into the king's service and have been loyal subjects ever since. And Kasumi, one of the heroes of the Magician novel, was elevated to Earl of LaMut, so this is his city. But I mention this just because while the city does become a weird mixture of Surani design and kingdom design, it mentions elves and dwarves. The dwarves do live close by, but they don't typically... As a general rule, the dwarves and the elves tend to keep to themselves. There's nothing in the books about them living among humans except as guests on the way to someplace else. In fact, the elves are very insular and have their own little land, Elvandar, that's out in the western forests. And we will get to go there later in the game, but for now, we just have a shop to go to. And Fletcher's Post. The Fletcher's Post being constructed with elven sensibilities. Within and without, little if anything had been used in there that could be called scurrilous, and certainly nothing that was merely decorative. Along the walls, the shop's array of arrows and other archery goods were finely displayed, and each thing seemed precisely in its place. And we can repair gear here. But yes, this is very much an archery shop. And now that we're here, and we have a fair bit of gold, well, we can't afford the Surani crossbow. Which, the heft of the crossbow alone was assuring. Its potency seemingly worked into the very fiber of the weapon. Reputed to be more powerful than even the common Midkemian foot soldier's crossbow, they are rare treasures hoarded by weapons collectors. And we definitely can't afford an elven crossbow. Should have let Owen be the one to ask for that. And we can't afford elven quivers, but we can definitely pass those on. So now we do have bows for our fighters. I didn't sharpen that one first, but never mind. And tune that one up. And I could get another set of weed walkers. And we got a book called Killam's Didactic, which this is a copy of the work scribed in the first year of the reign of King Liam I for brother, professional archer, and friend. So, yes, this is a book that apparently increases your archery skill. And this scroll, Eyes of Ishap, well, we have that one already, but if he buys one scroll, he might like another. 140 gold sovereigns, we can definitely take that. And I think... Alright, so now we have a set of weed walkers for everybody in the party, so we can sneak around a bit better. Alas, we cannot get that book just yet, but all in good time. So the only other places we can go at the moment are we have the garrison and the inn. So let's see. The garrison was impressive. Sitting high on a hill overlooking LaMut, the military outpost had been constructed years earlier to head off a possible Morin-Hill assault on the western border of the kingdom. They found a road that snaked through the town and up the rocky hill upon which the garrison sat. After speaking with the sentries at the gate, they were led under the fortress's massive iron portcullis. Captain Belford stood as they entered the room. "It's good to see you again, Locklear," he said, extending his hand. "I share that sentiment. What news have you? How is Earl Kasumi?" Locklear asked as the men shook hands. They sat in hard wooden chairs as Belford replied. "He's well, but he's off taking care of some business with a few new guards come through the rift from Kellerwan. As for the rest of us, we're looking for a group of grey warriors from Kellerwan who slipped through the rift just before it closed." Locklear looked a little puzzled. "King Liam and Emperor Incanar granted the grey warriors freedom and new status in the kingdom." "Yes, but the agreement doesn't allow for the nationalization of stolen goods. Seems they may have absconded with a valuable ruby from Makala's entourage," said Belford. "Makala, the Surani Great One?" Owen asked. Bilford smiled. Yes, he's been talking to Prince Aruf about establishing a permanent rift to encourage trade between the kingdom and Kellowan. He's really throwing his weight around trying to get his ruby back. If you happen to come across it, bring it back here. He's offering a reward. They thanked him for this information and left. So, yes, there is what is meant to be our first big quest for making some spending money. And that just leaves us with the Blue Wheel Inn to check out. Undoubtedly the newest tavern in town, the Blue Wheel was sedate, almost sleepy in comparison to the other LaMutian shops. Inside, dark-skinned patrons slapped down hard-earned sovereigns in exchange for the Blue Wheel's exclusive imports from the far-distant empire of Saranuani. And, yes, Blue Wheel is a reference to the Blue Wheel political party, which Kasumi and his family were part of in Magician. Let's go and talk to this bloke. A table is cleaned for them. Sitting down on a splintered bench across from the man, Locklear shared a bit of the mercenary's bread as he listened to a story about a failed love affair with a married woman. As the story progressed from sentimental recounting to drunken blubber, it became evident the man had no intention of finishing the tale anytime soon. Well, that's terrible, Locklear intoned around mouth of bread, his attention fixed instead on the wooden boards behind the mercenary's head. Awful. Tragic. Oh, there you are, a steward said, laying a heavy hand on Goraf's shoulder. Are you still going to still help me carry in those bags like we talked about? Initially at a loss, but suddenly understanding they had been rescued, Locklear clapped his hands together. Yes, yes, of course, if our drinking companion will forgive the absence. Blearily, the man looked up at them and nodded, waving for someone to come and fill his cup. And barmaid can help out, and we can also talk to this bearded fellow. The dwarf drew on his pipe. Languid smoke plumed from the old codger's mouth as he studied Locklear, Owen and Goraf each in turn. Although he had long ago lost the use of his left eye to a Mordhell sword stroke, his right eye still burned brightly beneath his bushy eyebrows. And please forgive me for my rustic Scottish accent. I know that it's a cliche for dwarves, but in this case they wrote his dialogue so it demands the Scottish burr. Just to make this interesting, though, no, actually... No, I will do the Sean Connery voice for this one. Being as how a dwarf never forgets so much of his own name, I can recognize a strapping young man before me who last I saw was a boy. No slight intended, but I don't recall the occasion. As much as the rest of your human kin, none among you can remember much past a week. If not for we canny dwarves, you would have forgotten you have a kingdom at all. I fetched out of a cellar along with a score of womenfolk at the Battle of Shefnan. Don't you remember me, Lockley? Yes, fun fact. In the Darkness at Sefenon, Locklear wound up spending the end of the battle. Well, the end of the battle, he took refuge with a group of, well, score of womenfolk, maybe exaggerating it a little bit. He wound up taking one teenage girl and her younger brothers and sisters who were trying to find a place to hide, hid in a cellar, and, well, the novel concluded with James, Locklear's best friend, complaining about how he couldn't get any sleep in their quarters because Locklear and his new girlfriend were, she was thanking him for saving her. And thus began the long-running gag of Locklear being something of a player. Anyway. Dubal, of course! Good to see you. I never recognized you without the eye patch. What should you off to do? I won this scratch fat and square and I'll be a dragon's mother before I cover it up again. Shouldn't have done so in the first place. Now I'd have to sit here and jabber with that loon of a Shurani bartender and have a few beers. Not much to do with the Macmordain Cadal all collapsed. A Barak Nur's been seen down there. They'll be offering a hefty reward for its slaying, and I'll might you if tradition holds, too. Something of a challenge as y'all fierce beasties, even by dwarven standards. I've heard tales of these creatures of stone. Thank you, Dubal. Let's go ahead and bard a bit. Owen played, his fingers slid easily over the lute's fingerboard as he moved between chords of This Kingdom Mine, the notes filling him up as well as guiding him forward. Quietly he began to sing the refrain. This kingdom mine with my blood I've paid to guard against all who oppose her. When at last he had finished with the tune, he found his audience was sitting in stunned silence, their gaze all fixed on him. That was beautiful, the tavern keeper said. Reaching into his pouch, he removed 60 sovereigns and placed them in Owen's hand. And on that note... Hey, barding went up on that one. So now we'll go ahead and talk to the innkeeper. Sumani clapped twice. Abruptly, the festive mood of the room died, the clank of goblets and the scribbler plates falling silent, as the bartender shuffled between benches to bow at Locklear's feet. Touching a gnarled fist to his forehead, then to his heart, he spoke somberly. "Be welcome to the Blue Wheel Inn. May you find the drinks to your liking and the company of our patrons pleasurable. If there's anything our servants or I may do, you need only ask, Sumani." Honors to your house as well, Sumani. Am I correct in believing this a drinking establishment?" "So it is. We serve many of your Midkemian drinks, as well as a few from the Suranuani Empire as well. Perhaps I might interest you in a cup of chocha?" Yes, that would be the Surani equivalent of coffee. So we can ask about him and ask about Grey Warriors. Well, the funny thing is that we actually, Locklear knew about this earlier, but he won't be here. "We were up at the garrison earlier, and they told us about a group of Grey Warriors stole a pair of rubies. Are the Grey Warriors some kind of special armed force on Kellywan?" "Special, yes, but not in the way you imagine. The Grey Warriors are men without honor, men whose houses have been destroyed by an opponent house. Such men must live off the land until they die, though I have heard that Mara of the Okama has accepted many such men into her estate. Mara of the Okama being the heroine of the Empire trilogy. Others have learned they may be granted freedom if they can reach the kingdom. Many die trying." "Well, where would such men go once they got here?" "Well, away from LaMut, wherever they might go. Though the members of the garrison here are bound by kingdom law, many of the soldiers still live by Surani custom, as I do. It is not easy to fight our feelings about the Grey Ones. If indeed these Grey Warriors have stolen rubies, I suggest you seek out a man with a tainted honor, Kiefer Alescook in the town of L'Oreal. He is a gem merchant there, out of his home." "Huh. I believe we've met him already." "I get the feeling this ruby theft isn't an isolated incident." "You listen between my words. This is the 6th such theft in the past year. Twice gems have been stolen near the Assembly of Magicians from the Great One Makala's entourage. That would be no simple feat to accomplish, even for a master thief. Whoever it is that's responsible, he must fear little if he doesn't fear the wrath of a Great One." So that helps narrow the suspect pool of thieves, because for a Surani to think about robbing a Great One is unthinkable. Not just because of the honor, but also, Great Ones are very powerful magicians, and trying to mess with one is, signing your own death warrant. "I would take care following this thief, friend. I sense he is very dangerous." And we can also ask about Sumani himself. "Why did you decide to come to Midkemia and open an inn anyway? Surely you would get better business on Kellywan." "I was not always a tavern keeper. As a soldier serving House Shinzawai under Earl Kasumi, I was trapped here when the Rift Gate was collapsed at the end of the Rift War. It was our belief that we'd never see our families in Suranuani or the green skies of Kellywan again. But Surani warriors traditionally kill themselves if they are in danger of falling captive to an enemy." "That is true, Lord, but the Earl informed us we were forbidden to dispatch ourselves until given leave to do so by a Great One. I believe in Midkemia you would call such a one a magician. Until such a time I content myself with running the Blue Wheel Inn." And we can ask him about Rift Gates and combat. "I've heard that the permanent Rift Gate Kellywan is located near here. I was hoping we could get a glimpse of it. There will be little to see at the moment. An internal conflict has arisen in the Empire between House Okama and House Anasati. The Assembly of Magicians have ordered a temporary interruption of transport between the Empire and the Kingdom of the Isles until such time as the conflict is resolved. I have been assured that the measure is temporary." So yeah, sorry, we do not get to see Kellywan in this game. "You said you were a soldier with the Surani forces. Would you be interested in teaching us some of your combat techniques?" "It would be my honor, Lord, but I will require a small fee for my services. If my armor were to be damaged, I would be ill-prepared otherwise to pay for its repair. 75 sovereigns should cover any potential harm. Is this fee acceptable?" "Sounds reasonable enough to me. Deal." "I shall meet you by the river in 5 minutes' time. I should forewarn you, however, I sometimes seem quite different when I am armored for battle. I apologize in advance for any harm that I should do you." Locklear gaped. Striding down from the narrow doorway of the Blue Wheel Tavern was a figure that no longer bore any resemblance to a modest tavern keeper. Obviously, having taken his time to refit himself, Sumani had donned a pitted suit of blue laminate armor. The greaves, breastplate, and leggings were all fashioned out of lightweight wood, which creaked as he lumbered toward them. "Surani armor?" Locklear asked. Sumani adjusted his blue-plumed helm over his eyes. "I was a former patrol leader. The Earl Kasumi insisted I should keep the armor given to me by House Shinzawai. Although I am no longer serving the garrison, my oath of loyalty is still to the Earl. Are you prepared for your lessons?" "Yes, I think so." A mischievous glint reflected in the Surani's eyes. "Then defend yourselves." Locklear motioned for a halt to the listeners as he hauled himself for the third time out of the cold LaMutian river. "Okay, mercy, uncle, whatever you is, you damnable Surani say not to surrender." "Your will, Lord," Samani chuckled, already beginning to resume his modest role as a tavern keeper. "I shall meet you inside the Blue Wheel once you have dried yourselves off." And we can also ask about armor repair now. "I don't know how much longer our armor is going to last. Any idea where we could get it repaired?" "If your armor was the same as mine, I would suggest trying the garrison, but kingdom armor is made in a different way. I would think perhaps the dwarves and the Macmordain Cadal might be of assistance. I understand from speaking to Dwal that the small ones are gifted when it comes to the manufacture of weapons and armor." Well, that may be bragging, but yeah, dwarves are master smiths. But then again, in what fantasy realm aren't the dwarves master smiths? "Thank you for your services, Sumani. You have a wonderful establishment. It's very Surani. Your patronage honors us. Goodbye. I promise if we're ever in LaMut again, I'll be sure to drop in for a bit of something to eat." And yeah, we tapped the entertainment fund, so no more playing. 5 sovereigns for the night. Perfectly reasonable, I think. And our abilities have increased because that bit of training has raised our defense to 61 and Locklear's melee to 72. Owen's defense is now 50 and his melee is 51. And Locklear, or Goraf, is now at 57 and 56. So yes, we are quite defensible at this point. Owen in particular has improved a fair bit. Well. We got enough time for one combat. The Mordhell warrior turned in surprise. By all appearances, they had gone completely unaware. If he had anticipated their attack, he certainly not expected them to be so heavily armed or so formidably skilled. Still, he kept his guard, and Locklear knew that he would give them quite a fight. Yes, one guy. I'll go ahead and try a fireball. You disappoint me, Owen. Let's see if the crossbow works any better. Easy peasy. And hey, my crossbow skill improved. Well, that bit Dubal mentioned about there being another, a Braknor in the mines close by. I'll bet this was the chest that Philip was talking about, but I think we got just enough time to go and check out the mine. And see about that reward for killing the monster. A sulphurous stench was in the wind. "This must be the Macmordain Cadal," Locklear said, his eyes glazing as he lost himself in thought. "I knew that was somewhere close. As I recall, Mac is dwarven for mine, a cave or something like that. Now, considering the dwarves are no friends of the Mordhell, they might be some assistance to us, assuming they don't take exception to Goraf here. Do we investigate or not?" "Yes." The tunnels were damp. Though the silver-seamed earthen roof which stretched over their heads was tall enough they didn't have to crouch, Locklear felt pinned in by the shaft. He was probably thankful the dwarves were larger than they were often given credit for in the legends. Yes, they are in fact 5 feet. And now... Yes, well... And now we can cast Candle Glow, which will give us a bit of light while we're down here. Sparks rocketed down the corridor. Slamming Owen flat against the mineshaft walls, Locklear narrowly leapt for cover himself as something skid along the rocky floor. Abruptly, the glowing clone of fire winked out of existence as it collided with an unseen wall. After several long heartbeats, the seigneur peeled himself away from the wall, just in time to meet the gaze of a short tree stump of a man. Bloody awful, Emma. You'd have to have a demon in your bones. You have come to have a whack at killing the beastie, have you not? Beastie? Beastie, aye! Half a week ago he heard something fierce a baying down the mine, terrible code-like. Of course the dwarf knows that sound instant whether he's heard it before or not. Braknur. Curse of every hole dweller that's ever dwarves, since dwarves first took up hammers. I've never heard of him. And no one else in quite a while, laddie. There's been a Braknur in the upper mines for quite on time since Delong the Great Lake claimed the Kingdom of the Isles. We thought they'd laid low with a lot of them, but the kobolds are staring them up on their quest. Kobolds? Your folk call them gnomes. They used to worship a dragon what lived down here. When the dragon disappeared, they thought the dwarven folk did him away. Now and then they lead our Pharaoh, takes the notion to take a holy quest to find him. Now this time they've woken up a clutch of Braknur. Now the nerve collapsed the main passage and killed 30 of our kin. We've rewarded whoever can do it in, if you have a mind and have the spirit, that is. Well, let's go with the Braknur. I'm not saying that we're interested in killing your Braknur, but if we were looking for it, what would it be like? Half again your height made of stone, like living rock they are. From out of the nostrils they breathe a green mist, but beware of getting too close to look, for they'll drop a bolt on your head, is sure now. We've already had a few bravos will come in and have a hand at killing the beastie, but there's not much they've been able to do themselves beyond get themselves so mangled they need the help of a temple. I'd be wary of them though as I would be of the beastie. None of them won't tell us but to claim the gold that we've offered up to the creature's slayer. And temples. The way things have been going for us recently, perhaps we would do well to seek a little help at the temples as well. Where are the closest ones? Well, we dwarves don't dwell much outside the great towers of Stone Mountain, but as I can, there's a temple of Killian betwixt Zun and Hawk's Hollow. I think there might also be a temple of Ishap here close, but I can't recall exactly where that would be. Yeah, that's over by L'Oreal. And armor repair. The barkeep at the Blue Wheel Inn at LaMut suggests you might be able to repair our armor. If you want to dig ourselves out of this pretty mess, we could do something for you. But we're all tied up to a man. Pardon my saying so, but we had problems a bit more pressing than dealing with dented armor. You might find a hermit who lives near Hawk's Hollow. He's gained some reputation for himself over the past few years. That would be the animal, I'm guessing. But swords. If you can't repair armor, could you at least do something about swords? That'd be difficult, but we're in a really crucial situation. Oh, dear deaf, laddie, I told you before, we haven't the time to go repairing things at the moment. We're in a crucial situation ourselves, if you haven't noticed. We'd be willing to pay you. I'm sure you're just as sure as I know the dwarves below will be willing to pay to get out from under the rock. It's a question of time. Look, if I show you a trick to sharpen your sword, you promise not to be bothering anybody else in the mine. I think I can turn you a handful of sovereigns to advantage and hire a few strong backs. You have my word of honor. That'll have to do. I'll teach you a quick little something about weapon crafting, but I'll expect a fee of 50 sovereigns from a trouble. Do we have a deal? Well, I'm not sure I have 50 sovereigns at the moment. Let's see. Do I have 50 sovereigns at the moment? I do not have 50 sovereigns at the moment, but I'll bet once we slay the Braknur, we will. So we'll go ahead and close this chapter out, and next time, we'll be doing some hunting for a Braknur now, don't you know?